Hello, Miss Seagram, for my presentation on the Glass Hotel and media connections it has. Now, let's get right into it. So, the themes I'm going to be addressing today are greed and how it corrupts people, guilt and the effects it has on someone's psyche, and human frailty and the decisions that people make that lead to disaster. So, the first piece of media I'm going to be talking about is Dominion, a book by C.J. Sampson. Now, just to offer some context, Dominion is an alternate history action thriller novel that takes place in an alternate history where Nazi Germany won World War II. So, Dominion by C.J. Sampson shares the theme of guilt. Our protagonist David is guilty of a lot of things. The death of his son and his ignorance about the Holocaust going on around him are just two to name. David is plagued by his guilt, as it's ruined his life, his marriage is over, and he's no longer happy, and he's always on edge. Much like the character of Paul. After Paul indirectly kills Charlie Wu, he's literally haunted by the incident, making his life extremely difficult and painful. As we see from this quote from David, the lives God gives to us, the awful things we can't escape from, sometimes I think that sort of God would enjoy making hell for us after we die. As we see, David is very kind of self-destructive and pities the situation he's in. Second piece of media is one you're quite familiar with, Hamlet. Now, Hamlet by William Shakespeare also portrays guilt, very similarly to how the Glass Hotel portrays it. In Hamlet, the ghost of his father comes to him and tells Hamlet that it was his uncle who was responsible for his death. The guilt of not being able to save his father manifests itself into this scene. Now, I personally believe that the ghost is not a real thing and it's Hamlet's mind, and if you take that into consideration, you can see what I'm really talking about. This is exactly the same thing as Vincent in her situation. Now, the ghost of Vincent's mother comes to her after Vincent never gets closure on what happened to her. Third piece of media is the Gotham TV show, and more specifically, the character of Penguin. Now, the story of the Penguin is an evil version of rags to riches. He kills for power and money and is obsessed with gaining more wealth. He often hides behind the facade of being a friendly, nice man, similar to Jonathan Alcides. Now, Jonathan is also very obsessed with gaining more and more wealth, and indirectly kills people for it. Just like the Penguin, he puts up a nice front to lure people into his Ponzi scheme just to screw them over in the end. And as we see from this quote, a year ago I held Fish Mooney's umbrella. Now she's dead by my hand. Along with Maroni, Falcone is in hiding, and all of their businesses are mine. They all underestimated me. I suggest you not make the same mistake. So as we see, this man is clearly someone who would do anything it takes to acquire more power and wealth. Our fourth piece of media is Ancient Greek Philosophers. Now, this is a book that is a compilation of many Greek philosophers and their personal ideas, but the ones I'm going to be singling out today are Plato and Aristotle. And they specifically believe that the desire for wealth will lead to the cost of one's ethics. And now, who better embodies that idea than Jonathan Alcides? His addiction to money leads him to ruin the lives of people just to slightly better his. He has no moral problems no, he has no moral problems doing this, and he's abandoned his ethics and morals. Socrates also said, "He who is not contented with what he has would not be contented with what he would like to have." And this also embodies Jonathan Alcides, as no matter how much money he adds on to his vast pile of wealth, it's never enough. Fifth and final media connection here is in H.P. Lovecraft's Tales of Terror, specifically the short story titled Herbert West Reanimator. Now, this focuses on a scientist who is obsessed with reanimations. However, due to his failure in creating the correct serum, he unleashes a monster onto the town, killing many people. Although he had no intent to do this, his human failure led to the death of innocent people. Similar to how through Paul's actions of trying to seem cool, he indirectly kills Charlie Wu. That was my last and final piece of media connection, and we're now at the end. And just to add on, Works Cited page. You can click on the links as I will send in a physical copy of the slideshow as well. Thank you for listening.